Amara Bennett's face hit the birthday cake hard enough to crush the sugar roses beneath her cheek. Cold buttercream exploded across her skin. The ballroom went dead silent. Victoria Sterling's manicured hand stayed on the back of Amara's head one beat too long, long enough to make sure every person in that glittering Atlanta room understood exactly what had happened. "Maybe now," Victoria said softly, for the front row alone, "you'll remember your place." A gasp slipped from somewhere near the orchestra. A woman in diamonds lowered her champagne flute and looked away. Even the violinist near the staircase stopped in the middle of a note. At the edge of the room, under a chandelier bright enough to make everyone look expensive, Marcus Reed turned too late to see the shove itself. He saw only the aftermath, the ruined cake, the frozen guests, his fiancée standing over a maid in a black uniform, and the kind of silence that could wreck a family's reputation faster than gossip ever could. Amara lifted her head slowly. Pink frosting clung to her cheekbone. A streak of icing hung near one eyebrow. She didn't cry. She didn't flinch. She didn't even wipe her face right away. She just looked at Victoria with a calm so complete it disturbed the room more than tears would have. That was what Marcus noticed first. Not the cake. Not the humiliation. The calm. Because most people did not look like that after being humiliated in front of 200 wealthy guests. Victoria gave a light laugh, the kind people use when they know they've crossed a line and decide to make confidence do the work of character. "Oh, don't look so wounded," she said. "It's cake, not a tragedy." No one laughed with her. Amara reached for a linen napkin, dabbed the corner of her mouth, and stepped back from the table. "I'm sorry the evening was disturbed, ma'am," she said. Ma'am. No anger, no trembling, no pleading. That somehow made Victoria look worse. Marcus moved forward at last. "Victoria." His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. Victoria turned, smoothing her expression almost instantly. She had spent the first half of the evening charming donors, complimenting older guests, and smiling for photographs like grace itself. Now that polish had cracked. "She ruined the presentation," Victoria said. "I told the staff to stay back until I cut the cake. She kept hovering." "I was fixing a loose stand under the tray," Amara said. Victoria's eyes flashed. "Are you correcting me?" Amara lowered her gaze, but not in fear. "No, ma'am." Marcus looked between them. Victoria in silver silk, diamonds at her throat, beauty sharpened by humiliation. Amara in a plain black uniform, frosting on her face, posture straight, as if dignity were something no one could take without permission. Then Marcus noticed Victoria's hand. It was trembling. Not from rage, from embarrassment. Because the room had seen her clearly. Her mother, Eleanor Sterling, appeared at once with that polished, old-money smile designed to bury scandal before it could breathe. "Everyone," Eleanor said brightly. "What a dramatic little mishap. This is why I always say parties are theater." A few people forced awkward chuckles. The mood didn't recover. Across the room, Marcus's mother, Lorraine Reed, stood near the fireplace with her cane in one hand, watching Amara with quiet concern. Half of Atlanta's elite was in that mansion. Judges, developers, surgeons, board members, investors. And every one of them had just watched the future Mrs. Reed shove a maid into a birthday cake. Victoria leaned closer to Amara, still smiling for the room. "Go clean yourself up, and stay out of sight." Amara nodded once and turned. As she passed him, Marcus heard himself say, "Wait." She stopped. Cake frosting still marked her face, but her eyes were clear. "You okay?" he asked. The question sounded weak the second it left his mouth. Amara paused as if deciding how much truth he deserved. "I will be." Then she walked away. And somehow, that was the moment the air changed. Because Victoria had no idea who she had just humiliated. And Marcus had no idea why the maid he had barely noticed all week carried herself like a woman who had survived worse things than public disgrace. Upstairs, in a narrow powder room off the servant corridor, Amara locked the door and finally exhaled. She turned on the faucet, soaked a towel, and slowly wiped buttercream from her cheek. Her phone buzzed in the hidden pocket of her apron. Devon Cross. She answered on the second ring. "Tell me." Blue Harbor Health Logistics Chief Operating Officer didn't waste time. "Savannah issue. North Lake Medical wants the revised compliance file tonight. Legal flagged a discrepancy in the senior care routing report." "Not a discrepancy," Amara said, pressing the towel to her face. "A formatting conflict between county billing codes and the Medicaid override tags." A beat of silence. "Right. Did anyone resend the version I marked at 4:15? "No, we were waiting on your approval." "You already have it. Page 12, row 68. Use the Macon template, not Augusta, and call Sandra Liu before you send it. If Northlake's attorney sees the pilot waiver citation in the subject line, he'll stop posturing and sign." Another pause, then more quietly. "Are you still at the Reed house?" Amara looked at herself in the mirror. Uniform, frosting, tired eyes. "Yes. You should not still be at the Reed house." "No," she said. "Probably not. Do you want me to come get you?" "Not yet." She ended the call before he could argue. A soft knock sounded at the door. "Miss?" It was Tasha, one of the younger catering assistants. "You okay?" Amara opened the door. Tasha's face fell. "Lord, she really did that." "I'm fine." "No, you're not." Tasha glanced down the hall. "You should leave. Miss Sterling's been looking for reasons all night." "For reasons to do what?" "To remind everybody she's about to own this place." Amara folded the towel. "Does she treat all the staff like this?" Tasha gave a humorless laugh. "Only the ones she thinks won't matter later." That landed harder than the cake. Amara thanked her and stepped back into the corridor. Through a half-open service door, she could see the ballroom again. Music had resumed. So had the laughter, thin and practiced. But Victoria was watching the doorway. Still watching for her. As if humiliating her hadn't been enough. As if she still needed proof that Amara understood the hierarchy of the room. Amara looked away first. Not in surrender, in thought. 3 years earlier, if someone had told her she would be standing in the Reed mansion wearing a maid's uniform while an heiress pushed her into a cake, she would have laughed. Then again, 3 years earlier, Blue Harbor wasn't worth $80 million. 3 years earlier, Marcus Reed was just a name attached to a philanthropic board. And Victoria Sterling was simply the polished daughter of a luxury real estate empire, famous for charity galas, elegant speeches, and the kind of generosity that photographed well. Back then, Amara still believed wealth revealed character. Now she knew it mostly revealed what people thought they could get away with. She had come to the Reed house for a reason no one in that ballroom knew. Not Marcus. Not Victoria. Not even most of the staff. Lorraine Reed knew. Years ago, Lorraine had known Amara's mother, Celeste Bennett, back when both women were surviving more than living. Celeste cleaned houses across Atlanta and raised her daughter with 2 jobs, 1 good church dress, and the kind of dignity money couldn't manufacture. When Celeste got sick, Lorraine quietly paid for 1 semester of Amara's college tuition and made her promise never to announce it.
People don't need to know what I give, Lorraine had said. They need to know what you become. Amara never forgot it.
Years later, after building Blue Harbor from one used dispatch van and a folding table into a multi-state healthcare logistics company, she crossed paths with Lorraine again at a hospital fundraiser. Lorraine was older then, walking with a cane, her late husband gone, her household increasingly shaped by her son's glamorous fiancée and the Sterling family's obsession with prestige. That night, Lorraine asked her a strange question. "If you wanted to know who a person really was," she said, "would you ask while they were being admired?" And Amazon smiled. "No." Lorraine nodded. "Exactly." The Reed Foundation was considering a major partnership with Blue Harbor, one that would expand medical transportation for low-income seniors across Georgia and the Carolinas. It was the biggest humanitarian contract Blue Harbor had ever considered. But Lorraine had concerns: staff complaints, payroll irregularities, quiet reports of employees being dismissed after speaking up, pressure from the Sterlings to steer foundation money toward glamorous charity events instead of direct care. Lorraine didn't want a presentation. She wanted the truth. So when the head housekeeper suffered a minor stroke 2 weeks before Victoria's birthday, Amara stepped in through a private agency under the shortened name Mara. 7 days, Lorraine had said. Just long enough to see what my son is marrying. Amara had agreed. Now, it was day 6, and Victoria Sterling had just shoved her face into a cake in front of Atlanta society. "There you are." Amara turned. Victoria had slipped away from the ballroom, lifting her gown slightly so it wouldn't drag. Up close, she was almost distractingly beautiful. Sharp cheekbones, flawless skin, money in every detail. And furious. "You embarrassed me tonight," Victoria said. Amara held her gaze. "I'm sorry you feel that way." Victoria blinked. "Excuse me?" I said, "I'm sorry you feel that way." "You hovered around me all evening." "I was working." "You were staring." "I was making sure the dessert table didn't collapse." Victoria stepped closer. "Do you know what I think?" Amara didn't answer. "I think women like you do this on purpose. Quiet face, humble voice. You linger near rich rooms, absorb details, pretend you belong around things you could never afford." Amara's expression didn't move. Victoria took that for weakness and kept going. "Good staff should be invisible, felt, not noticed." Amara looked at her for a long second. "And good people?" Victoria frowned. "What?" "How should good people behave?" For the first time, Victoria had no immediate reply. Then she gave a cold little laugh. "You're smarter than you look." "That can be dangerous in your position." "My position?" Victoria leaned in. "Don't get brave because Marcus asked if you were okay. Men like Marcus ask questions when they feel guilty. It means nothing." Amara understood then. This wasn't only about class. It was about possession. Victoria wasn't rattled by a maid. She was rattled by the fact that a woman she considered beneath her had drawn even a second of Marcus's attention. "You should go back downstairs," Amara said. "Your guests are waiting." Victoria smiled without warmth. "You won't be here much longer." She turned and left. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. Later that night, after the last guests drifted toward the driveway, Marcus found Amara in the kitchen rolling the damaged cake stand into a storage cabinet. "You didn't have to finish the shift," he said. "The shift still needed finishing." "What happened wasn't okay." "No," she said. "It wasn't." Marcus hesitated. "Victoria's under a lot of pressure." Amara finally looked at him. "Does pressure usually make people cruel, Mr. Reed?" He opened his mouth, closed it. "I'm not defending it." "It sounds a little like you are." The truth of that landed hard. He wasn't used to people speaking to him that plainly unless they wanted something. Amara wanted nothing. "You don't talk like this is your first time around people like us," he said. A tiny smile touched her mouth. "People like you?" He let out a breath. That sounded worse out loud. "A little." He studied her again. No jewelry, no makeup. Uniform plain enough to erase most women on sight. But her speech was exact. Her posture effortless. And earlier that evening, when a caterer panicked over a vendor invoice, Marcus had heard Amara glance at the paper and say, without breaking stride, "That's not tax. It's a duplicate freight line item. Compare the PO numbers." She had been right. "Where are you from?" he asked. "Atlanta." "What part?" "Enough of it." That almost made him smile. "You always this guarded?" "Only when people ask questions after staying quiet at the important moment." He absorbed that. Then his mother called from the far end of the kitchen. "Marcus!" In the library, Lorraine shut the door behind them. "Your fiancé disgraced this family tonight," she said. "Mother." "No. I watched that girl hold her dignity together while your future wife treated her like furniture that dared to breathe." Marcus rubbed his jaw. "Victoria lost her temper." "Character isn't what people show while they're being admired," Lorraine said. "It's what comes out when they think someone beneath them can't answer back." There was that word again. Beneath. "Do you know anything about that woman?" Lorraine asked. "The maid?" Lorraine's eyes sharpened. "See, even now that's what you call her first." Marcus frowned. "What am I missing?" Lorraine held his gaze. "More than you realize." Then she left him alone with that. The next morning, the mansion wore the strained quiet of wealthy people pretending nothing had happened. Gardeners trimmed hedges. A fountain murmured in the courtyard. Inside, the staff moved carefully. Too carefully. Amara was setting out coffee in the breakfast room when she heard Victoria on the terrace. "I won't have that woman here another day," Eleanor answered in a smoother voice. "Then dismiss her." "It's not that simple. Lorraine likes her." "Lorraine likes handwritten thank you notes and church choirs. That doesn't mean she runs this house." Amara kept arranging the porcelain. "There's something off about her," Victoria said. "She doesn't act like staff." Eleanor gave a small hum. "Then she's dangerous. People who know how to appear humble usually want something." Amara nearly smiled. Her phone lit up under a folded napkin. "Board package ready. Need your signature before 3 p.m. She texted back. "Delay it." She planned to leave by noon anyway. Observe, report to Lorraine, return to her real life before Blue Harbor's valuation meeting became chaos without her. But before she could, a fresh crisis hit. Victoria stormed into the breakfast room holding an open velvet jewelry box. Empty. "My bracelet is gone!" The room chilled. Eleanor straightened. "Are you sure you didn't move it?" I know what my own jewelry looks like, Mother. Her gaze swept the room. Cook, butler, servers, Amara, and stopped there. Of course. That room was serviced this morning, Victoria said. Who went in? The butler cleared his throat. Mara refreshed the flowers, ma'am. Every face turned. Amara set down the coffee pot. I changed the roses and straightened the dressing table. I didn't touch your jewelry. Victoria gave a short, ugly laugh. You expect me to believe that? Yes. Marcus entered just then. One look at the room told him enough. What's going on? My bracelet is missing, Victoria said. And she was in my room. Marcus looked at Amara. Did you take it? The question landed hard. Amara met his eyes. No. One word, steady enough to make him feel cheap for asking. Victoria folded her arms. People don't usually say yes when they steal, Marcus. Search my apron, Amara said. The room went still. Search my pockets, search my room, search whatever you like. But if you do, remember you chose accusation first. Nobody raised their voice. Nobody needed to. Victoria stepped forward. How dare you? Like what? Amara asked quietly. A person? Lorraine appeared in the doorway, as if the house itself had sent for her. That's enough, she said. Victoria turned. My bracelet is gone. Then find it, Lorraine said, without turning breakfast into class warfare. Victoria flushed. Are you taking her side? I'm taking the side of restraint. You should try it. Then a footman hurried in from the terrace, holding something glittering in his white gloves. Found this, ma'am, on the rail outside the east sitting room. Victoria's diamond bracelet. Silence. Marcus felt shame first, sharp and immediate. Eleanor recovered before her daughter did. There, misplaced. Let's not make it bigger than it is. But it was already bigger. Because everyone had seen exactly where Victoria's suspicion went the second something valuable disappeared. To the maid. Automatically. Victoria looked at Amara, searching for a way back to normal. She found none. Say something, Victoria snapped. Amara looked at her with unbearable composure. What would you like me to say? Apologize, Marcus said. Victoria turned in disbelief. To her? The room froze again, and for the first time, Marcus heard it the way everyone else did. To her. Not to Amara. To her. Victoria saw the realization flicker across his face and instantly hardened. Don't do this over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding, Lorraine said. You accused a woman of theft because her uniform made you comfortable doing it. Victoria reached for power the way some people reached for air. Fine, she said. Then I don't want her working in this house anymore. Amara said nothing, but inside something settled. There it was. The truth she had come to see. Not how Victoria behaved when admired, how she behaved when challenged. And Marcus stood in the center of it, finally awake enough to realize that hesitation was its own kind of decision. Lorraine looked at Amara, and in that brief glance there was a question. Have you seen enough? Amara answered with the slightest nod. Yes. By noon, the formal family lunch still went forward, because wealthy families rarely canceled anything unless scandal became impossible to manage. And when you were rich enough, scandal often became just another scheduling issue. The Reed dining room had been reset with white peonies, sterling flatware, and 12 place settings. Victoria had changed into a cream silk dress and a face so polished no one would guess she had spent the morning accusing a woman of theft. Marcus looked tired. Lorraine looked resolved. Because business was coming. And business was where the hidden truth had been waiting all along. Family attorney Samuel Price arrived with 2 leather portfolios and a careful expression. He knew exactly how much money was on the table. Marcus's firm and the Reed Foundation were preparing to expand elder care transportation across the region. Several companies had bid for the operational side. Only one had clearly risen to the top: Blue Harbor Health Logistics. Its founder had stayed largely private from the beginning, delegating leadership, avoiding press, and sealing ownership records after larger firms tried to push her out early. Victoria, though, knew enough to admire the numbers. "80 million in 4 years, she said as Samuel opened the folder. That's exactly the kind of founder we should be aligned with. Smart, discreet, scalable. Marcus gave her a strange look. She admired invisible power while scorning visible labor. Samuel adjusted his glasses. The founder retains final approval on any public-facing partnership with the Reed Foundation. Then we should meet this person soon, Eleanor said. Lorraine said nothing. Amara entered with coffee service. Victoria stiffened. Why is she still serving this table? Because I asked her to, Lorraine said. Amara placed the cups one by one. Samuel's phone buzzed. He checked it and frowned. That's odd. What? Marcus asked. Blue Harbor's executive team is requesting an unscheduled stop before signatures. Today? Victoria asked. Yes. At the house? Eleanor said. Samuel nodded. Apparently, the founder's office insisted. Victoria sat straighter. Good. We should make an impression. Amara set down the last cup. Her own phone vibrated in her apron pocket at the same moment. She already knew who it was. Victoria noticed. Staff should not carry phones during service. Amara looked at her. Noted. Victoria inhaled sharply. Then the front doors opened downstairs, and the butler's voice carried through the foyer. Mr. Devon Cross, Ms. Sandra Liu, Mr. Howard Gaines. Samuel stood so fast his chair scraped the floor. That's Blue Harbor's COO, Chief Legal Officer, and Board Chair. Footsteps approached. 3 executives entered in tailored business attire, with portfolios in hand and urgency in every movement. Devon spoke first. We apologize for the intrusion, but we need Ms. Bennett's signature before the North Lake filing closes. The room paused. Victoria gave a confused laugh. Ms. Bennett isn't here yet. Devon stopped. Sandra Liu stopped. Howard Gaines looked past the table, toward Amara. Respect changed his face before anyone else understood why. There you are, Devon said. Victoria stared. What? Sandra stepped forward. Ms. Bennett, we brought the amended board package, the North Lake compliance revisions, and the updated valuation materials. Marcus turned slowly toward Amara. His pulse kicked once, hard. Victoria looked from the executives to the maid and back again. No. No one answered her. Howard placed a sleek black folder on the table. Apologies for the delay. Charlotte pushed back on the transit margin assumptions. We resolved it. We still need your approval. Lorraine held Amara's gaze and gave one small nod. Do it. Amara removed her white service gloves, set them on the table, then untied the apron at her waist and folded it carefully. Every eye followed the motion. Victoria's lips parted. Marcus had never seen anything like the shift that happened next. Nothing about Amara changed. Same face, same voice, same room. But the moment that apron left her hands, the entire balance of power collapsed. Because what had made her seem small was never her. It was everyone else's assumption. Amara straightened, and suddenly no one in the room was looking at a maid. They were looking at a woman completely at ease being seen. Samuel Price stood slowly. Amara Bennett? Good afternoon, Mr. Price. You're Blue Harbor? I founded Blue Harbor, she said. I own a controlling interest through Bennett Strategic Holdings. Howard added with calm professional certainty. Current independent valuation, approximately $80 million. No one moved. Victoria stared as if language itself had broken. That's impossible. Sandra opened the folder and slid the documents forward. Founder, chief executive, majority owner. Then she looked at Victoria. Not that Ms. Bennett owes anyone here proof. The silence was heavy enough to hear. Marcus felt the last 2 days replay in brutal clarity. The cake, the accusation, his own voice asking, "Did you take it?" He felt sick. Victoria looked at Amara and found, incredibly, one last accusation. You lied. Amara met her eyes. I concealed my identity. That is not the same thing. Why? Victoria demanded. Why would someone like you work here dressed like this? Like what? Amara asked quietly. Victoria's face flushed dark red. Every possible answer trapped her. Eleanor stepped in, desperate now. Surely there's some misunderstanding of purpose here. Lorraine spoke before Amara could. I asked her to come. Heads turned. Lorraine rested both hands on her cane and looked directly at her son. I wanted to know the character of the people surrounding this family before we tied our foundation to theirs, before we attached our name to any contract. Before you married a woman who believes status is a substitute for decency. Victoria recoiled. You set me up? No, Lorraine said. You exposed yourself. Marcus looked at Amara. You came here because of the foundation? In part. In part? Amara glanced at the folded apron on the table. Because my mother cleaned houses like this one. Because your mother helped pay for my education when she didn't have to. Because the work my company does serves people nobody photographs at galas. Elderly patients, disabled veterans, women discharged from hospitals with no one to drive them home. And because if I attach Blue Harbor to a family, I need to know how that family treats people who cannot advance their ambitions. Each sentence landed clean and final. Victoria had lost all color. Marcus tried to speak and failed. I did not come here to embarrass anyone, Amara said. I came to observe. What I saw was enough. Victoria's voice cracked. You can't judge my whole character from one party. Amara held her gaze. It wasn't one party. And that hit hardest of all. Because it was true. The cake had only made public what smaller moments had already proven. The hallway, the bracelet accusation, the way Victoria said staff should be invisible, the way she kept saying her as if humanity came in tears. Marcus finally found his voice. Why didn't you tell me? Amara turned to him. For the first time, there was sadness in her face. Because you were supposed to notice without being told. He had no defense for that. None. Victoria reached for outrage because shame was already swallowing her. "This is insane. You stood here pretending to be staff while spying on us. That's manipulative." Howard Gaines's expression hardened. "What's manipulative is humiliating someone you think has no recourse." Sandra added, "And for the record, Ms. Bennett spent this morning preventing a contractual loss that would have cost this partnership 7 figures, while wearing your uniform." Victoria turned toward the executives, but they were done with her. Because unlike the room the night before, this room now understood power in a language she respected. Money, control, valuation, ownership. Yet none of those things were what made Amara formidable. It was the fact that even now, with everyone finally seeing who she was, she didn't look triumphant. She looked tired, as if being underestimated had never been entertaining, just useful. Samuel cleared his throat. "From a legal standpoint, any partnership discussion is obviously paused." "No," Amara said. He blinked. "No?" She opened the folder Sandra had brought and signed the Northlake compliance papers first. Business before emotion. Then she closed it. "Blue Harbor will continue discussions with the Reed Foundation," she said. "But not with Sterling Development attached to the public rollout. Not after this." Eleanor's face hardened. "You're making a personal insult into a business decision?" Amara met her gaze. "I'm making a values decision into a business one. That's how sustainable companies survive." Howard nodded once. "Agreed." Marcus watched Victoria realize that the woman she had shoved into a cake could now reshape a deal her family had spent months trying to secure. That was when fear finally replaced disbelief. "Amara," Victoria said, voice unsteady now. "I didn't know." And there it was. The sentence people like her always reached for when consequence arrived. "I didn't know." As if ignorance erased instinct. Amara looked at her steadily. "You didn't humiliate me because you thought I was poor," she said. "You humiliated me because you believed a maid was less human." Nobody spoke. Not Marcus, not Lorraine. Not even the Sterlings. "If I had truly been powerless," Amara continued, "you would still think what you did was acceptable. That's the part that matters." Victoria's eyes filled then. Not with redemption, with collapse. Because she knew it was true. "I'm sorry," she whispered. It was the first honest thing she had said all day. Amara heard it, accepted that it existed, and did not rescue her with forgiveness. "I hope you mean that someday," she said. Then she picked up the folded apron, laid it gently on the sideboard, and stepped away from the table. Marcus moved instinctively. "Amara, wait!" She stopped. "I should have seen it," he said. "Yes," she replied. That was worse than anger, because it was true. For the first time in a very long time, Marcus understood that money could cushion a man from discomfort so completely he started calling it ignorance. And he was done hiding behind it. He turned to Victoria. "This isn't about the company," he said. Her face lifted with desperate hope. He ended it with the next sentence. "It's about the fact that I finally saw how you treat people when you think they can do nothing for you." Victoria stared at him. "Marcus." "No." The word was quiet, final. "I kept telling myself stress explained it. Pressure explained it.
that this was an exception. He shook his head. It wasn't. Eleanor rose sharply. Let's not make life decisions in the heat of embarrassment. Marcus looked at her. Embarrassment didn't create this. It exposed it.
Lorraine closed her eyes for a brief moment, not in pleasure, but in relief. The truth had finally reached her son. Victoria stood with her hands shaking. So that's it? You're ending this because she turned out to be rich? Marcus looked at her with a sadness that surprised them both. No, he said. I'm ending this because you only know how to respect people after someone richer names their price. That landed hard enough to empty the room of any final illusion. Amara walked out without waiting for permission, applause, or pursuit. Tasha stood in the hall, eyes wide. Oh my God. Ms. I don't even know what to call you. For the first time in 2 days, Amara laughed softly. Amara is fine. Tasha looked close to tears. I'm so sorry for what she did. Amara touched her arm lightly. You have nothing to apologize for. Outside, heat shimmered over the driveway. Blue Harbor's black town car waited at the curb. Devon held the rear door. You stayed longer than planned. I know. Sandra came down behind him with the folders. Northlake signed. Charlotte's waiting. Investors want updated remarks for tonight. Amara glanced back once toward the mansion. From a second-floor window, Marcus stood alone. Not chasing, not performing. Just watching her leave with the expression of a man who had mistaken stillness for insignificance and would remember that mistake for a very long time. She got into the car. The door closed, and the Reed house, with all its chandeliers and polished lies, finally fell behind her. 3 weeks later, downtown Atlanta buzzed with cameras, black cars, and the electric hum of a major launch. Blue Harbor Health Logistics was announcing a statewide expansion partnership with the Reed Foundation, restructured, independently governed, and stripped of Sterling Development's involvement. The ballroom at the St. Regis was full again, but this time, everyone knew exactly who Amara Bennett was. She stepped out of the elevator in a tailored midnight blue suit, natural curls pinned back, pearl earrings at her ears. No theatrics, no performance. People turned anyway. Not because she demanded attention, because she no longer hid from it. Marcus was there too, standing near the back beside Lorraine. In the weeks since the mansion, he had done something men in his position rarely did. He had apologized to staff, restructured oversight, untangled board influence, and ended the engagement everyone assumed he would protect for convenience. He didn't approach her immediately. He waited until after the press remarks, after the signing, after Amara outlined a transportation initiative that would deliver dialysis, oncology, rehab, and discharge support to thousands of low-income seniors. She spoke the same way she had spoken in the mansion. Calm, clear, no wasted motion. Only now the room wrote down every word. When it was over, Marcus found her near a side corridor overlooking the city. You look different, he said. Amara almost smiled. I changed clothes. You know that's not what I mean. She considered him, then gave him the truth. I'm just not pretending to be smaller tonight. Marcus nodded. I wanted to thank you, he said. Not for what happened, for not walking away from the foundation entirely. I almost did. I know. She looked out at the city lights. My mother used to tell me some people only recognize dignity when it arrives wearing expensive fabric. That doesn't mean dignity wasn't there before. Marcus let that sit. Then he said, "I'm sorry." This time, it sounded stripped of self-protection. Amara believed he meant it. That didn't mean it repaired anything, but it mattered. "I know," she said. Across the hall, reporters gathered around Howard Gaines. Investors laughed too loudly. Hospital administrators traded cards. The world kept moving, as it always did. Marcus looked at her one last time. "I underestimated you." "No," she said gently. "You accepted the version of me that cost you the least to examine." He took that in silence, then nodded. Fair. Later that evening, as guests filtered out, a young reporter stepped closer with a recorder in hand. "Ms. Bennett?" Amara turned. The reporter smiled nervously. "Do you ever regret letting people underestimate you?" For a second, the noise of the room softened. Amara thought of frosting on her cheek, of her mother's tired hands folding uniforms after midnight shifts, of Lorraine Reed paying a tuition bill in silence, of Victoria's face when power changed clothes, of Tasha whispering an apology in a hallway where class had once felt like law. Then Amara smiled. Not bitterly, not triumphantly, just with the calm of a woman who no longer needed to be understood too early. "No," she said. "Sometimes being underestimated is the clearest way to learn who people really are." And this time, when the room fell silent, it wasn't because someone had been humiliated. It was because the truth had finally entered, dressed as itself.